We are 1-0. Luke predicted it correctly. Packers beat the Chicago Bears. Very big accomplishment because the Bears were very good last year. They did not pick first overall. They earned it, but they didn't pick first overall. So, by the way, great PR by the Bears because most people don't remember they were the worst team in the league last year. They traded the perfect time. Mm-hmm. Congratulations to them. But Luke, you did picked it correctly last week that the Packers would win. By the way, Luke Reimer, Trevor Land, I'm Zach Bruner, Janet Wilson not here. You and Janet did predict it though. Weird game, but a game that the Packers won pretty convincingly, I would say. Yeah. What were your thoughts from Packers Bears week 1?
Well, I don't want to be that guy to say like I told you so or anything. But my whole thing was the Bears are just such a fucking dog shit organization, dog shit team. They're never going to win against the Packers, no matter how bad the Packers are. They just can't beat them because they're so stupid. Like you said, Zach, in our last show, the Bears offense looked all right to start the game. It looked all right in the first quarter. And then for whatever fucking reason, the Bears coaching staff just said, fuck this. We're going to lose to the Packers again, which makes total complete sense because that's what they've been doing since Brett Favre got to Green Bay. So, like, that to me was the easiest prediction of all time, and it's going to be the same exact prediction when they play later in the year. So that's a spoiler alert for, I think they play week 16, week 17, or whatever it is.
I think it's week 18. I think they start and end with the Bears.
So I'm guaranteeing that the Packers have at least 2 wins this year.
Okay, not bad. That's not bad.
No.
Trevor, what was your thoughts from the game?
My thoughts were... I don't want to say the Packers got lucky because they clearly didn't win because of luck. That's a stupid take. It's a Bears fans take. I will say this game should have been a lot closer than it was. If any of multiple things happens, and I think the Packers have a lot they need to learn from this game moving on because I think they got away with some stuff that you can get away with against the Bears that they are not going to be able to get away with even next week against Atlanta.
I will say to the Packers' credit, Trevor, you said, there's a lot of things that could have went either way. The Packers did a very good job as a young team to make sure that they didn't go the other way in this game.
I agree with that. I have a lot of thoughts about this game, but my biggest overarching thought is just that Bears fans should be fucking embarrassed.
Correct.
They should. It was pathetic. They quit. Mm-hmm. They quit on their own team in week 1 in a game that they very much were still in when they quit.
Not even by halftime.
Not even by half. It made no sense. It was like a 1-point game.
It was 10-6 at half.
Stop. It made no sense why they quit. And then the players quit too. Mm-hmm. Chase Claypool never showed up to work.
He's the worst NFL player.
That was bad.
Yep.
He was bad. The Bears, I understand they invested a lot to trade for him. He should not see the field the rest of the season. That was terrible. His career. Legitimately. Can't believe people tried to call him Mapletron. Because they compared him to Kelvin Johnson. It's
crazy.
Insane.
Fucking crazy.
Can't trust a bastard from Notre Dame.
I mean, he is just bad. He gave zero effort. He had Keyshawn Nixon blowing his ass up when he somewhat attempted to block him. He didn't run routes. He didn't do anything. He was bad. And that was a game he probably should have picked on the Packers, legitimately. If he's going up against Jair or Keyshawn Nixon, he has 5 inches on him?
On both of them.
And the safeties on top of that. They're not very big either. So it was a game he probably should have done something. He didn't because he sucks and he's a bitch. But this game kind of just came down to the Packers capitalized on the Bears' mistakes. Bears made mistakes. Packers scored. Awesome. Packers had a lot of short fields, and they scored. They did what they had to do. The Packers had a lot of mistakes too, but the Bears were either not good enough, or just not focused enough, or motivated enough, or aware enough to capitalize on those mistakes. Because there was a lot of bad football by the Packers, but the Bears just ignored it. It was fine. There's interceptions to be had. There was times that the Packers were behind the chains. There were sacks that could have happened. There was a lot. And I don't know.
To your point, and I guess I'll, kick off the transition into the show here. You said that the Packers were behind the chains a lot. There was a lot of times where it was 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, all the way to 3rd and 15 that the Packers were converting. And that's credit to the Packers. Jordan Love stayed in their poise, hit his open receivers, made the throws he had to make. That was awesome. But we have to get out of, not getting yards on first down. That's been like the Packers' MO the last 2 seasons, is they just give that play away, which is fucking crazy in a run-heavy offense for Matt LaFleur.
Mm-hmm. And if we are going to run another read option with Jordan Love, he needs to learn the basic fundamentals.
They open the game with a triple option.
Triple option. That one option on the left sideline, though.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. I don't know. He was running to his guy to hand it off to him in the flat. That's all that was. That was bad. But whatever. Who cares? Like, I assume that's going to be better. I don't know why we need to run it in general, but whatever.
The triple option is phased out of football.
It's phased out of football. And Jordan Love, while he moved the chains very well, once again, like he extended drives with his legs in the preseason, I think that's his strength.
You are very robot glitchy.
Can you hear me? No.
Can hear you now. Can you hear me now?
Come back. You're frozen though.
1 second.
Boom.
It's refreshing.
While Zach's waiting to come back, like to your point about converting 3rd and 4th downs, the thing about converting on 3rd and 4th downs, Luke, they were wide open.
They were
like when to start the 4th quarter, Bears are only down 10, like they have a chance. Dontavian Wicks gets a false start. Reed is wide open. I think they had Dobbs over the middle on 3rd down, wide open. It was like, and obviously I think one of the plays was the busted play to Musgrave on the fumble, which that makes sense. But like there was nobody in coverage, it seemed like.
No, yeah, and to that point, I really liked what the Packers did on 3rd down. I think Jordan Love should get credit for it. I think Matt LaFleur should get credit for it. It felt like Jordan Love was put into spots where he could succeed, and he made the exact play he needed to succeed. So I think that's a plus for a young team like this. But it's like I said before, it's really hard to know considering how fucking bad the Chicago Bears are. Do they pick up that 3rd and 15 against Atlanta? Do they pick it up against New Orleans? It makes me think no, but it also makes me think kind of, because it looked fine.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Jordan Love absolutely, like, there's 2 lines of thinking. I just don't like I don't like how people are exaggerating everything, I suppose. Like, he didn't look bad, right?
No.
There's no reason to say he looked bad. And this is not me saying he looked bad. This is not me saying he's a bad quarterback.
He had the highest QBR this week.
Yes, he did. But to your point about like there's 3 plays Jordan Love made, and you could argue if he made them. Like, there's the fumble to Luke Musgrave. Fumble, defense gets sucked up. Luke Musgrave, by the way, very mixed feelings on his performance, but I think he's going to be a good player.
Yep.
But wide open, big game. And then the other 2 big games were Aaron Jones at the line of scrimmage that he was a screen. So, like, Jordan Love, yes, he passed for over 200 yards, but air yards, I don't have it ahead of me, but they were probably, in terms of completion bias,
is a Drew Brees game.
Yeah, he had a Drew Brees game, and not even, because Drew Brees did it in quantity. Like, he had 1 million of those short passes, and Jordan Love did it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, not saying he had a bad game. Clearly, he made the plays when he needed to make the plays. You're talking about on 3rd down, or 4th down, like that big touchdown to Aaron Jones, huge play in the game. Like, truly, 2 plays in the game you could just focus on. That's what dictated the entire game. They were both 4th downs. The Packers' 4th down to Aaron Jones scored touchdown, and that first 4th down by the Bears where they didn't convert, and the Packers got a short field. Those 2 plays basically dictated the entire game. Mm-hmm. And if one of them went the opposite direction, who knows what would have happened in this game?
Which, while we're on it, those were 2 of the most boneheaded play calls I've ever seen by the Bears on that first drive. The 3rd and the 4th down. I did not understand them.
They needed 1 yard. They should have been able to get a yard on a QB sneak. I thought they actually possibly did, but they didn't really look at it.
Bears should not the Bears just run a high school offense. They're not going to do anything on offense ever.
It just makes no sense. Like, I deemed this coaching staff the worst in football. Obviously, Luke Getsy leading it, former Packers coach. It just makes no sense. Last year, they started the Bears offense completely pedestrian. Looked like the worst offense in football. They tried to make Justin Fields a pocket passer, did not work. Then they let him loose. He ran a bunch. Obviously, you can talk about how long is his playing career going to be if he's taking rest days already playing like that. But he was much better. The team was much better. And then fast forward to this year, since they traded for DJ Moore, they feel like he can be a pocket passer again. Let's try this again. And I thought he looked pretty good, but the offense as a whole was not good whatsoever. He led the league, or led his team in rushing, obviously, had a bunch of rushing yards, not one called rushing play for him. That's inexcusable. And they didn't even really call plays to get him out moving, like out on the flat, throwing the ball. They didn't do anything. I don't understand it. Like, they're coaching him as if he's Drew Brees. They're coaching him as if he's Matt Ryan, and he's not. Let him use his legs. Clearly, that's his strength. Are you trying to win or not? And if they did that, like, they were already in this game. If they just let him use his legs some, different game completely. Completely.
Yep.
I don't get it.
I agree.
I don't get it at all.
And maybe this is a transition to the defense. I don't want to jump ahead of you here, Zach. Jair Alexander did exactly what we wanted. Get a shot. It wasn't a great shot on Justin Fields, but get a shot on him early and get the blood pumping. That was fucking awesome, wasn't it?
Set the tone for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Again, in coverage wise, I think he kind of had a hit or miss game.
Yeah,
but
sure.
In terms of like emotional leader for the defense, he did what he had to do.
It was also very funny that he was signing autographs before the game ended.
For sure.
Yeah.
Very funny.
And I think,
Yeah,
I mean, another thing in this first half, and I know we'll get into it, but like, and it's great. I'm glad they won. I'm glad they won the way they did. I'm not trying to nitpick, but man, this game could have been almost out of reach after the first drive in the second half. They just used Aaron Jones. Like, in those 3 punts between the touchdown and the field goal, AJ Dillon got it 4 times. Aaron Jones got it none at all. Like, it felt like the momentum could have turned. I don't think it would have, but it felt like the Bears get the 2 field goals. Like, oh, Packers need to score. They finally get it to Aaron. Like, what are we waiting to get Aaron Jones the ball for?
I mean, this goes back to last season. This is just exactly the same thing that happened last season. AJ Dillon's not very good at football. Like, I don't know how many times that needs to be said on the show. He's just not. And I never, ever want to hear Matt LaFleur again saying we got away from Aaron Jones and we need to start figuring out ways to get him the ball in the second half. Like, truly, all you got to do is get him the ball. He's electric with the ball. He looked as good as we have ever seen him. He is clearly one of the best running backs in the NFL. And we choose to take him out for someone who is very much less than average. Someone who it feels like he's on the team to sell jerseys. And that's about it. I don't get it.
How much do you almost put this, like, don't get me wrong, he's a good teammate, but for not asking for the ball more. But, like, should we kind of be faulting him for not asking for the ball more when he's the guy on offense?
No. He took a pay cut. Give me the ball less. That's what I would say. If you want me to get the ball more and shoulder more of the offensive load, pay me more.
He's so good, man.
He's so good. He should have 25 touches a game in this current Packers offense.
He should be Austin Eckler.
For sure. But he took less money to stay with the Packers. And like I say this about running backs all the time on our fantasy football show. I said it a bunch in the offseason. I'll say it again right now. Like, you can see a running back's value based on their money. Like, that's it. Their money tells you what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
If they get paid a bunch of money, they get a big paycheck, they're going to be a bell cow. That's it. Aaron Jones took less money. When running backs take less money, then their role is going to be reduced because they're going to say, I'm not going to put my body in harm's way more after taking a pay cut. I'm trying to get to that next contract. Mm-hmm. That's what they're trying to do. They want to play well enough to get the next contract, and that's about it. Packers have no expectations to win the Super Bowl. Aaron Jones does not want this to be his final year. So, I mean, that's it.
Once again, I bring it up on the show. We've been doing this show for I think 4 years now, 3-4 years. Aaron Jones, there's only 4 running backs in NFL history who have a higher yards per carry than him.
He's great. And
Yep.
I don't think he should be a bell cow, by the way. I don't think he should be a 25 touch guy. I just think how the offense is built right now with a combination of inexperience and terrible football players, I think he should. Like, he's the best player. But realistically, the Packers should get another running back to do something. And it's not A.J. Dillon. I know they supposedly tried to trade for Jonathan Taylor, and the Colts wanted Christian Watson. By the way, pull the trigger on that. If that was somehow
what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, it wasn't real, by the way. But if it was, that would have been great.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I guess I'll speak on the defense in this game a little bit more because I think the defensive line I thought played awesome, and I think you get a defensive line playing awesome, you get a Quay Walker pick 6. It's all stems from that. To your point, Zach, you mentioned before Justin Fields getting out and running a little bit. I thought the Packers did fine, with contain. There was times, the missed sacks inside. You'd obviously love to see those, whether that's young players, first game jitters, whatever. The defense was very hyped. I didn't see the defense I didn't think the defense was the number one defense in NFL history, as many people had made it seem on Sunday. But like the defense played fine enough to beat the Chicago Bears. If defense plays like that again, I think they have a pretty good shot against Atlanta. I think New Orleans is a big test there. And then obviously with the Lions week 4, that's going to be a very rough game. But in terms of, what we're excited about, I can't be mad at the defensive line, right?
I agree. I want to focus on one play. Do you remember the naked boot that the Bears ran? I think it was third quarter, maybe second. And Devontae Wyatt went unblocked.
Yes.
And he went and got the sack. That's going to be circled in every Atlanta Falcons offensive meeting this week.
Correct.
This is going to be a coaching point because Devontae Wyatt, you can go back and watch. He takes the easy way out on every single play.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is if a lineman's giving him the soft shoulder where it's like, you can go this way, where if it's a draw play, they're letting him run by so they can run behind him. If it's a naked boot, like they're supposed to let him run up that way, whatever it is, whatever the path of least resistance is, he takes that route. So on that play, it worked because it was a naked boot. No one was supposed to do that. And he's extremely athletic. He relies on his athleticism. He will make plays like that doing this type of thing. This also means he's not going to have a very long NFL career, by the way, because as soon as his athleticism goes, he can't make those plays and he's gone.
He's going to get killed on trap.
Going to get killed on trap. But the Falcons now, if they see that and they see, on every time that you give him a soft shoulder, on every single time, wherever you want him to go, we can make him go. They're going to be running traps. They're going to be running those screens. They're going to be running anything, and he's just going to run himself out of plays this week. And that's a very big concern. Like, you can't take the path of least resistance as an interior pass rusher, as an interior lineman.
Yeah, you got to.
Rashawn Gary does the same thing. What was that?
You got to take it head on.
You have to fight through it. Like, his job, he probably, for the most part, in Joe Barry's defense, has to control 2 gaps. At the very least, he has to control 1. If he's going to run himself out of the play vertically, there's a massive hole behind him, especially if the Packers have the same alignments that they had in this game in the preseason. There was another big running play off the right side where Lucas Van Ness was the end. He didn't contain the edge. I don't think Packers teach them to do that. Like, truly, they just let him run outside. And then Quay Walker was so far inside, he was holding hands with Campbell again. Like, there was nobody there. It was a running play that was another, 14, 15-yard run. Like, the Falcons are going to eat that shit up. It's just an easy check. And it was an inside zone to the left. It was a cutback. Every inside zone is made to cut back, and the Bears read it. And I can tell you, a running scheme as good as Atlanta, they're going to cut back every single time if they're going to see Quay Walker or Isaiah McDuffie. Walker's here.
Yep.
Why is it doing this? Okay, you guys can.
It's nice to have somebody else be the bad connection. Before
We
we
got
get
you,
to
Zach.
Atlanta too much,
You
because
guys
obviously I
continue.
feel like that's the way we're going to go. Luke, I'll ask your opinion, and Zach when he gets back. There was one play here in this entire game that pissed me off more than anything else I've seen in the Packers in a very long time.
Ooh, that's
Packers
saying
have the
something.
ball. What'd you say?
That's saying something.
Packers, Zach, I told Luke there was one play that pissed me off more than anything else. Tell me I'm out of line or what, but I just didn't understand this for the life of me. Packers have the ball, their last possession of the game, 4th and 6 at the Chicago 30. You have a rookie kicker, you have a new punter, so a new holder, a whole new system, and on 4th and 6 you go for it on a run to run the clock. Like, don't you want to get your kicker some practice, put up 40 on your opponent? Like, I didn't understand the point of running a play there.
I don't like it. I mean, I don't like kicking it. I think it's fine what they did. I don't get the point of kicking it because there's no pressure, there's no stakes. So at that point, you're not getting much out of it. But Luke, I believe you might have been long snapper, I guess. But everyone knows, like, the worst job on an NFL football team, on any level of football team, is the fucking field goal team, the extra point team, the guys up front who have to block.
It sucks.
You're taught the coaching point for this is to die slowly. That's it. You have to stand there while sometimes the most athletic people on the planet are running straight at you and just trying to destroy you. So I'm not giving the Bears one last chance to tee off on us for no reason. That's my thing.
I think I told this story at Lombardi Sweep before, but my buddy, shout out Al, he was the guard on field goal, and we played Menasha, who I think they ended up winning state. Tyler Johnson was their quarterback, went on to play at Wisconsin. They had some big fuckers on field goal block. They just pointed 61, go at him, and they ran 5 guys at him, and he ended up on his ass with 4 guys on top of him every single time. It was so goddamn funny. But that just goes to, like, kicking the field goal. It sucks being on that line, especially on the interior line.
The worst.
Yeah.
The worst. My first football memory, big football memory, was starting at that right guard spot, which again, shortest distance from the defense to the holder is right there. That's why I'm there. And they sent the most athletic guy I've ever seen, at least in my memory, at me. And I literally, it was a game-winning field goal. I did a flip, was on the ground, didn't know what happened. I just heard cheers and had to assume we won. Like, it was a nightmare. It was horrible. It hurt so bad.
I'll say to anyone who's a lineman, who's young, listening to this, be a long snapper. Nobody can touch you.
Correct. Figure it out. Yeah, I had too big of pads. Couldn't do it.
No.
So your point of view is just don't get anybody injured. The reps of snapping, holding, kicking isn't worth it. Because I never played on I played on the line once. It didn't last very long, but I never played for a field goal unit. So
it's a combination of don't get anybody hurt and what's the best case scenario? That he makes a meaningless field goal. And then what's the worst case scenario other than injury? That he misses it and we end the game with a sour taste in our mouth and we feel like, oh, we didn't really do that great.
Yeah. I'll back Trevor up a little bit on this. Like, I understand that, like, Trevor, your idea is just get him out, get reps and get him NFL game experience. I think the same way if you go for that 4th down too. Run a 4th and 6 play.
Or best of both worlds, run a fake field goal play.
True.
You don't want to bring that out early.
I mean, never know.
That would be the
Sean Payton and Dan Campbell.
That would be an incredible, that's Matt LaFleur's coaching philosophy. Let's run the fake field goal instead of running it week 17 when we need to get a win.
Yeah, let's use it when we already guaranteed the win.
Yeah.
That'd be great. It'd be good stuff by him. Other things, Josh Myers, terrible at football.
Yep. One in spite of him.
One in spite of him. AJ Dillon, again, bad. He's a combination of not being elusive, also not being a strong runner. Just not very good. And Aaron Jones, as good as he was, as much as he was the entire offense, in my opinion. And on his big 4th down touchdown, comes up a little gimp, holding his hamstring, out the rest of the game. Doesn't look immediate. It doesn't look too serious. I think there's a pretty strong chance he plays this week. But I don't think he's going to be 100%. I don't think there's any way. And like I said on the fantasy show that we just did, like that takes away his ability to completely open up in a full sprint, which takes away the best part of his game, his quickness. So I think that sucks going into this week. And then the final couple things here, we had a formation that I loved with all 3 tight ends in there.
Yep.
Thought that was very fun.
Yep.
As long as we don't only use it to run it, we got to do something out of it, which I'm sure we will. And then we did have the formation like I assumed we would. We had 6 linemen on the field 2 or 3 times. Not Josh Nijman. It was Rasheed Walker, which I think is the correct choice.
It is.
I'm just saying, I think we know the pecking order in terms of offensive tackles, in terms of offensive linemen. So,
yep,
that is that. Anything else from this game?
I don't think so. I think as all together, I think we're all in agreement. Like, it was a good win for the Packers. I think they played well. They looked fine. Once again, it's hard to really evaluate based on how fucking shitty the Bears are. I'm going to keep saying that because it's true. But in total, like, I don't want it to sound like we're shitting on the Packers. We're just pointing out things to get better. Like, the Packers were fine. They got a win. They did what they needed to do. They got out of Chicago without any injuries. One thing that did kind of scare me a little bit, Reed went down with cramps. I am not comfortable at all with Malik Heath and Dontavian Wicks on the field. We need to sign a receiver tomorrow.
Yeah. Even if Watson plays, we still have no depth.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I nitpick a lot, so I'll give a positive. I texted in the group chat when there was that drive by the Bears to score a touchdown. There were 3 defensive penalties. They weren't. I mean, I don't want to say lost their heads because they clearly weren't, being emotional. That's not how they got it. But I was afraid with a young team, even with some older defenders, they'd kind of lose it a little bit. Maybe gets the Bears back in the game. I mean, it did help that the offense came out and scored, but it didn't look like the defense ever really fell apart or got down on themselves. And it's hard to do that against the Bears, but I still think that counts for something, when you're getting flagged, when they're moving the ball, to still keep trying to do what you do, keep your head on straight. I like that.
Agreed. Also, shout out to Rasul Douglas, who he played every single defensive snap, and he was on kickoff team.
Yeah.
I think you can question why, but congrats to him. Like, he played very well. I don't want our starting corners really to be on kickoff team. Both him and Nixon are on kickoff. There's a couple other notable players too. I just don't think we have the depth to do that. But as long as he stays healthy, we're good. So props to him. In terms of, I should say this, we rotated our edge rushers pretty damn well.
A lot. And it worked.
It did work. The most out of all of them was Enigbari. He got 41. His Pro Football Focus grade isn't that great. I thought he had a good game, for whatever that is worth. The next most snaps out of the edge rushers was Van Ness at 35 out of 74, for whatever it's worth. Obviously, Rashawn Gary working his way back from injury. I talked about how he would be very limited because the Packers want to keep his stats low because they're in contract negotiation. The Packers are smart that way. Scummy, but smart. He played 12 plays.
Yeah, and we've talked. I'm not gonna say we talk shit about Rashawn Gary, but we've pointed out his deficiencies on the show. He played well.
He did. He also got 2 hands on Justin Fields on a play that he was already almost sacked and slowed down, and he missed the sack. So he's in midseason form.
Congrats. He got a pressure. Didn't get to anything. Still waiting on a 10-sack season for him.
We're also that stat got brought up a lot, that Rashawn Gary, the pressure rate was so much lower with him out last year. So was the other team's scoring was much lower without him out. With him out last year.
Correct.
And also, there was pretty much a pressure on every play with the Bears because their offensive line just went backwards. So,
yeah, I thought he's a rookie. He had rookie moments, but I thought Darnell Wright, their rookie right tackle, played well. I wish he was a Packer. He's a dog. He's an asshole, and I love it. He's the one who concussed Quay Walker. So, shout out.
At least somebody showed fight on that damn team.
Legitimately. They were holding their heads in the first quarter. I don't get it. It made they could have won the game if they just focused. But they couldn't do that.
Field pouting was the wildest thing to me.
It was just bad. Bad. Fast forwarding now, let's talk about this week. Packers play at Atlanta. Atlanta also coming off a win, a divisional win. They beat the Panthers. So both teams beat arguably two of the bottom 5 teams in the NFL. I don't think it's really that arguable, but yeah. Packers are favored on the road by 1.5 points, over under 40.5. We know the Falcons will want to run the football early and often, so the Packers will need to be prepared for that. Unlike the Bears, they will run it in creative ways and they will run it effectively. Bears kind of abandoned the run again pretty much immediately. Their play calls really had no logic behind it, and I think Atlanta's will, because I think Arthur Smith is a good coach. So we need to be prepared. The injury report, tough to find this week, but this is what happened on Wednesday, which is today, time of recording if you're listening to this after the fact. Bakhtiari's didn't practice for a rest day. Aaron Jones was out with a hamstring. Watson's still out with a hamstring. Quay Walker out with a concussion. Romeo Doubs was limited with a hamstring. Rashawn Gary limited with his knee. That's going to be, pretty common. And then Elton Jenkins was limited, but it said to be announced. We don't know why he was limited.
That was strange.
I assume rest day.
Probably.
To be completely honest, I don't think it's a big deal.
I mean, I'm sure they're beat up after a divisional game against the Bears. There's tons of cheap shots and trash talk and shit always going on there.
For sure. Anthony Johnson was a full go. He had a little bit of a knee injury. Gavin in the chat, by the way, anyone watching, definitely jump in the chat. Bears were favored, though. People just forget they were the Bears. Correct. I think that's kind of Luke's point.
There's no reason the Bears should have been favored in that game.
That's fair. Falcons injury report for whatever it is worth. Troy Anderson, a linebacker for them, was out with a concussion. Calais Campbell, many people forget he is on this team. So Josh Myers better eat his Cheerios this week. He just had a rest day. So arrested Calais Campbell is a scary Calais Campbell, even at 49 years old or whatever he is. And then Jonnu Smith also had a rest day. He is going to be he's fucking 6'8" too. Like, he's going to be a big blocking tight end for them. Jeff Okudah, familiar face for the Packers, limited with a foot injury. Does kind of suck. And Cordero Patterson in the Joker role for them was a full go today. So he is going to be back.
Notorious Packer killer. Honestly, notorious Packer killer, Cordero Patterson.
I'm sure he's going to be back there returning the opening kickoff or whenever they get it. And he will be used all over the formation, not just the backfield. He'll be more of a receiver this year, I think. And I do think Rasul Douglas matches up well with him for whatever that is worth. But yeah, depending on how creative they are with Cordero Patterson, that's a scary one. Interesting. Sorry, I'm just looking at the injury report, and for whatever reason, they included a tweet from Bill Huber that said Zach Tom doesn't look like a right tackle, but he turned in a good performance on Sunday. I don't know what that. Okay.
Good job, Bill.
I think he just took him with his body.
I guess. I agree, though, for whatever it's worth. He's a guard. Probably should play center. Yeah. We do have an opening at center. Gavin was very impressed with the special teams all around.
Yeah, I agree.
Carlson couldn't have been better. I mean, I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
kickoff was a little bad, but
yeah, I thought punt coverage was great. They were getting whoever the Bears returner, I don't even know. He was fucking bad at returning kicks. He can't make a guy miss to save his life, but the Packers were making those tackles, so that was awesome.
Mm-hmm. The kickoff was hit or miss. They had some really good plays and they had a couple bad ones, but
yeah.
In terms of the kicking operation, no mishaps, which is good.
That's all you need for a kicker to be good.
Boomed the shit out of that 52-yarder.
He did,
and it went straight.
Yeah, he's gonna kick the piss out of every ball. Like, if he's gonna miss it, he's gonna miss it hard. He, again, like I said, Joe Barry's defensive philosophy is make mistakes going 100 miles an hour. That's him for kicking the football too. Mm-hmm. If he's gonna miss it, someone in the crowd's gonna catch it.
Love that.
No
point missing close, right?
I guess. Respect. Whatever. Make sure they can't return it, I suppose.
Although Tyler Bass missed close, and that worked out for him. So,
His kicks were, and yeah, I mean, whatever. They were good.
Mhm.
They were good.
It's better than Crosby, who couldn't even kick it past the 10.
No, but I mean, shit, we kept telling him to. Like, we kept telling him, you got to do kickoff. It doesn't matter that your leg's falling off. Doesn't matter that you're playing through a knee injury. We're going to sign a punter who doesn't kick off again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I do not know. But yeah, Packers favored by 1.5 this weekend, 40.5 over under. We know the Falcons are going to run the ball a shit ton. Their offensive line better than people are talking it to be for whatever reason. Better run blockers than pass protectors for sure. But they are very good. Defensively, I think the Falcons can still get got.
Yeah, I agree.
Calais Campbell's a stud, but like, they don't scare you on defense.
No, and maybe this is a little lead into the key of the game for me. It's just, like of course this is going to be very obvious to say, but like, it's keep Jordan Love upright, keep like pressure out of his face. I think if you give Jordan Love time, he can make the throw and he will make the throw. So like, to me, I'm going to take the Packers in this game, but to me, like, it's all about the offensive line again. And it's probably the key of the game is just take Calais Campbell out of this game, right?
I forgot Jesse Bates is there now as well. He's good. He's a stud in the backfield. But yeah, Calais Campbell, you have to get vertical movement on Calais Campbell.
Right.
Like, you can't let him sit there and plug up two gaps. If you do that, then you lost. Which, to be completely honest, depending on where exactly Calais Campbell lines up, this game is somewhat suited to Josh Myers. Like, if you're asking Josh Myers to just use your athleticism and drive somebody off the ball who's right in front of you, I think he can do that. It's when you're asking him to move and take good angles and get up to the linebacker and, finish plays, that's where he struggles. But if Campbell's going to try to big dog him, I think Myers can actually put up some fight.
Yep, I agree.
But, Myers has snatched defeat from the jaws of victory before, if we want to put it that way, I suppose. Trevor, what's your thoughts? What's your keys to victory for the Packers?
Well, I mean, clearly, you look at Atlanta's defense, they're still rebounding from when they lost Foyesay to Aluakon. Obviously, that's a loss that takes a couple years to get back from. But like, Jesse Bates is the only one that really scares you. I'll agree. Obviously, Calais Campbell, we know him.
Grady Jarrett's good too, by the way.
Who'd you say?
Grady Jarrett. He's a defensive lineman. I really like him.
Whatever it's worth. Agreed, Zach.
Yeah. But like, there should be things to do here, like offensively. Like, they're limited.
Yeah, there's opportunities.
There shouldn't be much that I don't want to say can't do, because that makes it sound like I think they're just going to, move the ball at ease. But like, there are options here. You have options. I think the only question is going to be, how limited are they? So for me, I'd say the key, kind of like Luke, you brought it up earlier, positive plays. If Aaron Jones isn't playing, you don't have to worry about that. If Aaron Jones isn't playing, like, holy shit, like, you cannot let AJ Dillon get stuffed at the line, because this team will not be letting you run naked with Romeo Doubs 15 yards down the field on 3rd and 9.
Right. This Falcons team is an old school team. They are led by an old school coach in Arthur Smith. They are a tough team. They are going to try to big dog you. The Packers need to be the more aggressive team in this game. They have to, on both sides of the ball. They have to be more aggressive. They have to win at the line of scrimmage. They have to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. If there's no movement up front, Packers aren't going to be able to run, whether it's a 80%, 75% Aaron Jones or, 100% of whatever AJ Dillon is. That's just not going to work. Obviously, the way to attack Atlanta is on their outside corners.
Yep.
Can the Packers do that? I don't know. Like, you're saying, okay, this is good. The Falcons can't win one-on-one receiver battles against NFL receivers. Do the Packers have NFL receivers? That's the question. Like, do we trust Malik Heath to go out there and just completely beat man coverage, because I don't.
No.
And that's kind of what has to happen. Romeo Doubs, very limited last week, clearly not 100% healthy. He played through the injury, looked good in the red zone, but between the 20s, he didn't do much, and I don't think he is healthy enough to do enough yet. So, Jaron Reed, like, someone has to step up as a receiver, and someone has to do it. You have to be aggressive. Someone has to beat man coverage.
Mm-hmm.
That's the game.
Yep.
If you can't beat man coverage, you're lost. You could do it against the Bears because they're the Bears.
And maybe this is a Luke Musgrave kind of game plan to beat man coverage kind of game.
Has to. And by the way, shout out to Luke Musgrave and all the tight ends last week who blocked exceptionally well.
Yep.
You have to do it again.
Yep.
Except this week, they got Bud Dupree. They got Grady Jarrett. They got they have a couple linebackers that are okay. Calais Campbell. Hopefully he doesn't have to block Calais Campbell. Hopefully Campbell's not on the outside. That would be scary. Trevor.
I'm muted. Arnold Ebiketie.
I just want you to sit in that.
Swangleton, we see you. Hello, how are you? What were your thoughts on the Packer game?
Anybody watching, anybody listening, please give us your score predictions because we're about to do so. Again, Packers favored by 1.5 with a 40.5 over under. Sports books, everyone's expecting this to be a low scoring game. A lot of running, obviously. Last week was projected to be a low scoring game as well, though. And the Packers were handed many short fields on a silver platter. And to say Desmond Ridder can't do that is false. Like, if Desmond Ridder is asked to cook, so to speak, like, he could certainly make the same type of mistakes that Justin Fields did. However, we'll see how healthy the Packers defense is, because if Quay Walker's not in there, then it's Isaiah McDuffie. If Isaiah McDuffie's playing defense, he's going to be tired for special teams. If he's tired on special teams, they lose one of their best special teams guys, and all of a sudden, Cordell Patterson takes it to the house. So, like, there's a lot of depth issues that are already arising, I think, in week 2. And, if we lose this game, fine. Let's not lose any more players this week. That's kind of where I'm at.
To Gavin's point here, the young guys worried about condition. Like, I agree. It is kind of crazy that 3 of the best players in the Packers have hamstring injuries right now.
The most experienced, which is second year.
Right.
Yep. Minus Aaron Jones.
Yep. I mean, like, to me, the score prediction is kind of right around that. What are they predicting? Like 21-19 game? Like, it's to me, it's a 21-17 game Packers in my book. I think the Packers can outmuscle on offense and score points on this defense. And maybe it's a fan talking to me, but I mean, I have a little faith in these young guys on defense. I think if Joe Barry can get them going and flying around, I think there's a chance they can, I'm not going to say stop the run, but they can hold the run.
Trevor?
I'm going to go about the same score, but I'll flip it. I'll go 23-17 Falcons. There are too many ifs on the Packers, whether it's injuries or guys being man coverage, and I know what Atlanta has in a running game. That's the one thing that I know it's going to show up. And are the Packers a better team? Yeah. On paper, should they win this? Yeah, but the only thing I know it's going to show up is on Atlanta's side, so I got to pick them.
And I forgot we talked about this in the fantasy show, not this show, so it's not repeating myself. Packers notoriously really struggle against running backs who are receivers out of the backfield. We've really struggled to defend them. And the one player that the Packers sort of drafted in order to do so is Quay Walker. And if he's not healthy, that sucks. But then they also have a unicorn at tight end, whatever you want to say about him, that he can't beat contested coverage, whatever. I think it's all fair. But I do think Kyle Pitts is a matchup nightmare for this Packers defense as well. I think it's a little bit scary. Gavin's never too early to call A.J. Dillon a bust. I did it on draft night. So
go back and watch the show 3 years ago.
But we are all on the same page because I wrote down my score ahead of time. I said 22-17 Falcons. Yeah. So we are all right there. And I mean, last week we were sort of divided in terms of if it was going to be low or high scoring. I think we all think this is going to be a relatively ugly game, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think anybody here would be surprised if the team that wins flips.
No. I mean, you can say this about most games, I suppose, but I do think this one truly comes down to one play. There's going to be one play that one of the teams makes, And again, that one play could be a Cordell Patterson kick return. It could be, if Aaron Jones is healthy, it could be Aaron Jones to the house. It could be something like that. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's going to be, could be Keyshawn Nixon. It's going to be a big play, big yardage play that I think decides this game. Yeah. It's going to be a busted coverage somewhere.
I agree. I wanted to say one more thing about the Bears game real quick that I forgot to say. I don't know. It might have been the first time that the Packers were down in the red zone. They ran that little kind of, that middle screen to Aaron Jones where the ball kind of popped right through his hands. It would have been a touchdown if he caught it. They can scrap that play. There's way too much going on at the 3-yard line for them to run a middle screen.
There's a couple plays where it's like, okay, that was one that Rodgers didn't let them run.
Yep.
And if there's a linebacker sitting on that, Aaron Jones is dying.
Correct. There's just too much going on in such a small area.
The play where another one I didn't like it. I understand if it works, but it's 90% not going to work. It was that little mini pitch to the left.
Out of gun. That play sucks.
Yannick Ngakoue blew it up.
Yeah.
Like, you're not expecting the guy to run upfield, but that needs to just be a handoff.
Yes.
Like, you can't pitch it. It's a mini pitch. It doesn't work. And if you're making it, you have to cut inside. You have to let Bakhtiari kick whoever that end is out. You can't ask him to get outside of him. It's not going to work ever.
And the thing about that, too, is they're throwing the pitch to A.J. Dillon. I think everyone on earth would rather have A.J. Dillon running north and south than east and west trying to find a hole.
Have to.
Yeah.
Like if we're coaching him to be a more physical downhill runner, give him a head start.
You're right.
Like, that's where he probably could thrive. If there's a way for him to thrive, is in gun, where he can have more time to build up and get going downhill with speed, but he doesn't. So I don't know. Every time I see him, I think of SpongeBob with the inflatable muscles. That's his legs. I don't get it. I don't get it. Fucking Boston Connor on Pat McAfee's show tackled him. That's it. That's all I think of. It was high school. Granted, he was like 6 years older than him. I don't care. A.J. Dillon's done. We shouldn't have drafted him in the second round. We shouldn't re-sign him, but we did one of those things. We're going to do both of those things. I just don't get it. We're going when every team is not paying running backs, the Packers love to zig when others zag. We will not draft a first-round wide receiver, but fuck it, we'll have 2 running backs on second contracts on the same roster.
Hell yeah.
Guaranteed.
Fucking right.
Great roster build.
Lombardi would have loved it.
I'm sure. No, he would have looked at A.J. Dillon and be like, what the fuck is this guy? Like, this is not it. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. A.J. Dillon doesn't need to see the ball. I also like to go to Door County. I would like to be called the mayor of Door County.
Yeah. You're not special.
No.
Like, I don't get it. He's not the first person to see Door County. People have been going there for a long time. Gavin,
dog.
Absolutely. He's the best player.
Okay.
For sure on the offense, but possibly on the team.
I was just about to ask, is he the best player on the team? Because I think he might be.
I mean, who's your second? Jair?
It's Jair or Kenny, right?
Yeah. I love Kenny.
Or Bakhtiari, I guess. You could throw in there too.
And he had a good game. He had a few moments where he was very, very, very slow to get up.
Mm-hmm.
And it scared the hell out of me. I thought he was down.
I'd go Aaron Jones. I think the difference between him and the RB2, I mean, this is unfair to Jair, but it's way bigger than the difference between Jair to the cornerback 2, which is also big. But
yeah, I'll never say a running back's the best player on a team. So I disagree.
Right.
But he's very, very good.
Also, did you guys see, this is off topic, but the LaShawn McCoy commercial calling the running backs the backbone of the offense?
Crazy.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I love LaShawn McCoy too, but that's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, they can be the backbone, but they're just easily replaceable.
Right.
Like, they're vital to an offensive success, but there's no drop off. That's the issue. There's a surplus of running back talent everywhere. Mm-hmm. You turn on the CFL, you turn on the XFL, you turn on the USFL, and there's good running backs. There's terrible everything else. Mm-hmm. So that's the issue. That's it. It's not a shot at you guys. In fact, you made it so popular that everyone wants to be a running back and everyone's super good at it. That's it. Congrats. Pat yourself on the back and take less money.
I have one thing to say before we end the show.
Okay.
I'm, and I hope we don't lose viewers. I don't think we will for this, but I'm sad about Aaron Rodgers, man.
That sucked.
Yep.
That sucked. And I know on FlurrySports YouTube channel, there's like the live reactions of me actually like seeing everything that happened. I truly didn't think it was season ending.
Me either.
That was like, so I'm like, oh, that sucks. Haha, he's going to play 64% of the snaps. Like that was my thoughts truly. But I have zero doubts in my mind that he's going to come back and win an MVP. Like that's
comeback player of the year, MVP, Super Bowl, and Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, and then retire.
And I hope he does that. And it's definitely, I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers. Like, if you question him, his ability to come back and do something like that, you're an idiot. But like, it's really like, let's say he comes back and he's not himself, which is possible. Like, arm talent wise, it'll be there, but like, you just can't plant whatever. Like, his last game was losing to Detroit, being let down,
throwing a pick, his last pass,
throwing the pick. And then tearing it, like, for the rest of time, everybody would be wondering what could have happened. And you saw that moment of him coming out of the tunnel with the flag. There have been like 20 more moments like that. And we'll just never see it.
It's insane that even like the Sports Center accounts, ESPN stuff is talking about how Aaron Rodgers' Jets career is 75 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, it just felt really distasteful. Maybe it's because I'm biased, but I just don't think that would have happened to anybody else. I really don't.
No, I mean, the agenda's still out against Aaron.
He's fun to hate. That's fine. But like, this is one of the best players in NFL history. And it's an iconic, historic moment, how what will never be possibly, just showing how cursed this franchise is. And you're just kind of mocking it. And I didn't like it, but now the Jets likely going to have a better draft pick, just draft spot, than if they had Aaron Rodgers. They also get a first round pick. Now they don't have to send that to the Packers. I mean, they could be scary next year. I don't know how many free agents they got. I don't think that many to the notable players. So,
well, I mean, just at its basic core, like Aaron Rodgers is a 39-year-old man who's played football his entire life and knows nothing else. Like, the fact that we're like, you say what you will, agree with him or not, and there's some people that I hate. Like, you look at Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, like, we know what he did. We know what Ben Roethlisberger did. Like, this dude has his career probably, he thought at some point, maybe taken away, and we're mocking it when he's the greatest of all time statistically. That's just not right.
Gavin, they'll keep Randall Cobb just because they know, unlike the Packers, that you need a leader in the receiver room to teach like these young guys like a Garrett Wilson. Like, Garrett Wilson doesn't become the Garrett Wilson we hope he can be without a mentor. Christian Watson will never be what Packer fans want him to be without a mentor. And that's why this season is so confusing. Packers can make the playoffs, but if people aren't getting better, we're treading water again.
It's like my Madden franchise team.
That's right.
Except the Packers make the playoffs.
That's true. Except for Christian Watson catches a game-winning touchdown instead of dropping it. I thought he was going to drop that bitch. Josh in the flesh on YouTube, 26-17 Packers defense gets 3 turnovers and special teams gives good field position. Hey, if you are right with those predictions, come back next week and take a victory lap.
I will say, like, I don't fully agree with Josh on the 3 turnovers part, but like the fan in me, like I said, 2017, the fan in me wants to say 26-17 just to throw another touchdown in there. So I don't necessarily disagree with Josh here.
Yeah, I mean that score even still, like, I think it suggests that it's going to be a competitive game. I think it's going to be a really good one. I think it's going to be a really fun one. Is it a noon game this week?
It is.
Cool. Yeah, this is a game I think we won't want to miss. It'll be a fun one. So we'll be back next week. What was that?
It'll tell us a lot, one way or the other.
Possibly. What I said earlier in the season, and I'll probably say it next week if I'm correct with this prediction. The season doesn't start until the Packers lose. Jordan Love era doesn't begin until he loses. And that's not me being negative. We just need to see how this team and how he bounces back after a loss. That's it. So if it happens this week and the home opener is against the Saints,
God, I
that
hope not.
defense, we'll see.
Yeah, I
We'll
hope
see.
not.
Quick shout out to Quay for putting them haters to rest for another week. I'm one of those haters, so we will end the show right now, and I am not going to rest. I will be up all night stewing over Quay.
It's football season. We're not sleeping.
I mean, unfortunately, that is very true. But yeah, we'll be back next week. Give us a follow. Listen to Lombardi Sweep, the audio version of the podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify and Apple for sure. Subscribe, rate it 5 stars, and we'll be back tomorrow or next week, rather. Bye.